We finished in our prayer course last week explaining the mitzvah, the blessing that we make before we eat bread. And now, hopefully, through your Hebrew word diaries that we've been developing, 18 words over the past 2 weeks or 3 weeks of quarantine, by now you can truly come out. You can not just survive this quarantine, friends. You're going to thrive through this quarantine. Can you imagine coming back to shul after this quarantine where you're able to know 20 or 30 or 40 new Hebrew words that are totally comfortable with you in your lexicon? You know how to read them. You know how to translate them, and you know how to meditate upon them. It'll be unbelievable. You will have not just survived, you will have thrived. And that's something which I urge you to consider doing, to review the playlist called the prayer playlist on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Jewish Gardens. If you can go through that YouTube channel and the one called prayer, the introduction to Jewish meditation and prayer and spirituality through prayer, you'll be able to get all of our Hebrew word diary words and be able to make them yours as you write them on flashcards, Hebrew on the one side, English on the other side, and you go through them multiple times a day. That's how you'll be able to reach a beautiful state of being able to read Hebrew. So by the time you come back to shul after this, you'll be a pro at Hebrew. Okay, so what we did is we finished the prayer, the blessing before bread, and now we're going to move to, by popular demand, people were asking to move to the Shema. People wanted to continue the style that we were doing now, and we're going to do the first paragraph of the Shema so that by the time we're done, we'll be able to be completely comfortable with the Shema prayer. Okay, so we can do this. Let's do this together, guys. I've got just 5 minutes left, and I'm going to do this together. We do have a comment from Julia. So explain to me that my father did not believe God was there in the Holocaust, but he survived. Those that were pious were the first to be ridiculed and died. Explain. Julia, I think it's not a fair overgeneralization. First of all, I'm thrilled that your father survived. Thank God, Baruch Hashem. To say that the pious were the first to be ridiculed and died, I don't know what you're talking about, Julia. What do you mean that the ones who were pious were the first to die? What, they ordered people to die according to faith? I mean, how do you know what was going on in their hearts? Like, I don't even understand what that means. Julia, we're going to have to explain this. We'd have to talk about this more in depth, maybe tomorrow morning in the, I only have 5 minutes left. I want to do the part on prayer. But I know this question has come up a few times in the past few weeks. We've got to get over this part that the religious people died first. Why? Where do you get that from? What, German Jews that weren't religious didn't die? Like, why? Where do you get that information from? I'm thrilled your father died. Your father survived. God forgive me. I'm thrilled your father survived the Holocaust. And how do you know what was going on in his heart? Maybe he said that he was an atheist. Maybe in his heart he was a believer. How do you know? In any event, that's my comment to you, Julia. I think it's going to need much more explanation, is my point to you. What I think we're going to need to talk about this more to understand where you're coming from and what your question's context really is, so that I can give you a respectful and proper answer. But now we're moving on into the Shema, and let's talk about the Shema. But I want to explain to you right now. Here's what I want to explain to you. That we have learned the blessing of Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. If you can take that meditation, you can now transform your Shema Yisrael experience. You already know the first paragraph, the first line of the Shema. So we say Shema Yisrael, which means Hear O Israel. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But then it says Havaya Elokeinu, which is the two names of God. In English, we read, Hear O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one, which sounds utterly redundant and unnecessary. Like for me to say redundant and unnecessary in the same sentence. If something is redundant, then obviously it's unnecessary. If it's unnecessary, obviously it's redundant. So why am I using two words to describe the exact same thing? It's redundant and unnecessary. As unnecessary as it is for me to use these two words, so too it would seem it's unnecessary to say, Hear O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. It could just say, Hear O Israel, there's one God, have a nice day. Why do we need to say, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one? What are we even talking about? But now, I want you to realize how we apply the principle of the Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz prayer to our Shema Yisrael meditation. When we cover our eyes, and remember, this is the only verse that you actually have to understand in the morning prayers. If you spaced out the whole davening and you just read the words in Hebrew or whatever, you didn't read them at all. If you only said Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, you have fulfilled your obligation of prayer. Well, you also have to understand the first blessing of the silent Amidah. That too. But the Shema stands alone. We actually cover our eyes because you're supposed to be focused and not distracted. Covering our eyes is our sage's way of telling us, don't look at your phone. Don't be distracted. So when we say the Shema, now we know. I want you to see how we apply the principles of the Hamotzi to the Shema, because we learned in the blessing of the Hamotzi, Baruch, drawn upon us. We learned Atah, you God in the first person. Havaya Elokeinu, we explained that to mean God, the way He is unlimited. And Mother Nature, Elohim, which we just learned in the Talmud, that the prophets of the Baal thought they were two separate things. The prophets of the Baal thought that Havaya is God, who's the master of the universe, is too great to worry about the details of our daily lives. He has instituted administrators like the sun, the moon, and the stars, and other entities which are worthy of our praying to them, like the idolatry of the Baal. That is Elohim. So God is Havaya. And the prophets of the Baal, that is Elohim. Comes the Jew and he says, Shema Yisrael, Hear O Israel. The God that is all powerful and so great, the infinite God. He also is the one that deals with our details, with the small minutiae of our daily lives. He's the one that worries about every cough and every sneeze and every word, and He watches our actions and our thoughts, our speech, and He's worried and He gets naches from every single thing that we do or don't do. God is not too great. God is not that great to overlook our details. That is what we're saying when we cover our eyes. Hear, O Israel, Havaya Elokeinu. The God that is so exalted is also the same God who worries about our details. The way we explained it in our Motzi blessing was God that is unlimited is also the God that is limited, the God that hides Himself, Mother Nature. So the prophets of the Baal, they bowed to the sun, the moon, and the stars because they believed the sun, the moon, and the stars were the conduit for God's blessing, because God was too great to worry about our details. Today, our idolatry is Mother Nature. Our idolatry today is the notion that the world runs itself. Somehow, magically, it's magical wand here, somehow the world runs by itself. We are lulled into this hypnotic state of being where we think that just because something happens over and over and over and over and over again many times, therefore it happens by itself. Like, that makes sense, right? Like, imagine I would appear in this YouTube video every single day for the next 10 years. Would you suddenly start to assume that I don't exist and that this just happens by itself? Imagine I did this every day for 5,780 years. Every single morning I appeared in this video for the same amount of time. Would you suddenly start to assume that this video is not created by me, it just happens automatic by itself? Of course, that would be ridiculous. But that's exactly what's happening. When we see sunrise and sunset every single day for 5,780 years, we say, oh, that's nature. But God is separate. Comes the Shema Yisrael and it says, guys, wake up. The details of our lives, that's also coordinated by God. And that's the meditation that we're thinking about when we say Shema Yisrael. So I wanted you to see that hopefully you remember the class from the Hamotzi Lechem in Arts. And if you don't, please go back to youtube.com/Jewish Gardens. Go to the playlist on top where it says the prayer course and listen to the prayer course. You'll see. You'll go through the stuff. I don't have to repeat it. And that way, you can realize how every time you see the sequence of Havaya and Elokeinu, you have what to meditate upon. You're saying, the God that is worrying about my coronavirus or someone's uncle or cousin is in the hospital right now, that is God Almighty. It's not subject to the doctors or the CDC. Their hands is in the hands of God directly. And that's the meditation that we say. And why is it that Havaya Elokeinu, why is it that the God which is unlimited is also worried about our small, tiny details? The reason is because Havaya Echad. That's the last two words of the Shema, because Havaya, God is unlimited, is Echad, is everywhere. And I want to leave you with one meditation on the word Echad. And that's going to be our word today. That's the word that we're going to learn today. Echad means one. By now you should totally be familiar with how to write this word if you've been following along with me on our meditations and our word diaries. You should totally be able to read this word all by yourself. The word is like this: the Aleph, we know the Aleph, which is a silent letter; the Ches, which looks like a chuppah, right? It doesn't have the broken leg, which is the Hey. If it has a broken leg, then it becomes a Hey, which says, hey, you got a broken leg, right? So this is a Ches, it looks like a chuppah, and Daled, which has the dent at the back of its head. That's how you spell the word echad. Now, something very, very interesting about the word echad. I'm going to go through the meditation. So now we know how to read the word echad. We know that it means one. Echad means one, but check this out, this meditation. Echad is made up of 3 letters, Aleph, Ches, and Dalet. The numerical value of these 3 letters is Aleph is 1, Ches is 8, and Dalet is 4. So 1, 8, 4 is the numerical value of this word. Every Hebrew letter has a number value. Aleph is 1, Ches is 8, Dalet is 4. The meditation is like this, that God is Aleph, God is 1. Where is God 1? In Ches, in the 8, in the 7 heavens and the earth. And Dalet in the 4 directions. And that's the meditation we're supposed to be thinking about. God is 1 in the 8th sphere, in the 8th levels, 7 heavens and the 1 earth, and in the 4 different directions. And that's very interesting, because when you think about that, you're supposed to go like this. You say the Shema, and you're supposed to actually move your head in the 4 different directions when you say the Shema. Think about that for a moment, to say, God is 1 in the north. And you think about Washington, D.C. You're like, Biden, Sanders, Trump, God is in charge. You could spend some time thinking about that. And then you go to the east, you're like, in Israel or China, you're like, God is 1 in Wuhan. Wow, there's a lot to think about that. And then you think about God being 1 in the west, in the west, California, Israel, whatever your west is. You're like, wow, God is 1 even in the earthquakes of California and the hurricanes of Florida. God is 1 in the Prime Minister's office in Israel, and then in the South, in Florida. And that's a meditation to think about. It's really something very profound to think about. And that's our 19th word, I think, on our Hebrew word diary today, which is the meditation of the word echad and the Shema Yisrael prayer. So thank you for joining me here this morning. I'm going to sign off. And I want to thank you for joining me here. I want to look at Julia's comment that I'm an atypical personality. I'm atypical personality, so it's hard not to look at the facts too. I struggle with this, as you all know. Julia, I respect your struggles with this, and God forbid, I hope that you don't think I'm making fun in any way. I completely respect and validate your struggles. I just think that your question before was, I don't agree with the question, because I don't think that other people that were religious died first. What, they asked how religious you were before they killed you? I don't think so. I think that has to be reevaluated. I know that you'll do that. And I know that you'll let me know if you think I'm wrong. I'm sure you'll let me know. I see Jill Fanara is with us and Diane Shearer. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us, and wishing you a very healthy and successful day ahead. Yasher koach. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Shalom.